to do business, whatever it is that you think, it's easier for a political viewpoint to come from a place of fear. Because if you have this sort of global vision of a global economy where we're all cooperating and making sure we're not polluting our earth and making sure we do all we can to protect our resources and to share our wealth, and it's, oh my God, he's a communist. And it's like, no, and that's exactly what happened. We start talking in global terms, people use or apply these fear-based thinking, and it's so easy for you to react to them, and you end up embracing them. And if you are embracing them, and yet you still call yourself a Christian, I'm here to point out that's not what's best for you. It is not best for you to embrace these kind of fears generated from political positions that reject any kind of global vision. You need to have a global vision. But you can't just sort of have it intellectually. And that's the problem progressives have. They don't understand the internal process of you generating, because when you think globally, you're not actually thinking that. What you're thinking of is the divine field that surrounds you. It's universal. It's far more than global. But at least that's a little bit more consistent. You should have at least minimum that kind of perspective, but don't get into your brain. Just like you can't get into your brain about all the rules and all the sins and all the literalness of the Bible, you can't just lock yourself into that because you're over-intellectualizing your religious experience. And when you do that, you end up shutting your spirit down. And that's what happens with progressives. They become over-intellectualized. They don't envision a globe where we're all connected in a spiritual level, in a deeper, more meaningful level. We just, we talk about economics, and, it's good to have a global effort to keep the earth clean. I mean, that's pretty minimal, but it lacks something, and that's probably what conservative or Christians sense from progressives. Progressives are doing a poor job of raising the awareness, not just at an intellectual level, but they need to raise it at a much higher level. I mean, they need to make it more spiritual, have a quality of depth to it, instead of it just being purely intellectual. Like we have this beautiful ability in science to try to be as objective as possible to describe certain aspects of what happens in nature. And that's fine. We have this, science is wonderful that way because it really can change minds. Like, you'll have this perspective and this idea of how the earth works or how the universe works, and then you have all of this evidence and math to describe it in different terms, and you actually can change it. Oh, yeah. I mean, the best example, of course, is that it used to be an Earth-centric perspective. I mean, it was all enforced, if you will, by the Catholic Church. For thousands of years, people insisted that the Earth was the center of the universe and that the sky was just sort of this sort of painted thing with little dots on it. It took thousands of years to counter that thinking, but it happened with science, where especially ultimately, the final nail in that coffin was when Isaac Newton created a whole new map just to describe how the planets orbit the sun and how the solar system moves around, the center of our galaxy and so on. So you can apply that kind of mathematics. And the Catholic Church finally broke and said, okay, the Earth is not the center of the Earth. The Earth rotates around the sun, and that our solar system rotates around our galaxy, as we're part of the Milky Way galaxy. That's what science can do. And that's not a bad thing. So please stop being afraid of science. But with progressives, when they are overly dependent on science, and they don't appreciate the grandeur and the majesty of creation and the beauty that we can generate within ourselves, well, see, that's where it lacks a spiritual depth, a spirituality. But on the other hand, Christian conservatives who insist that they know the truth and the only truth and nothing but the truth, and they just stick to the rules and they stick to the dogma, and they be just so deistic that they are also denying themselves the majesty, the grandeur, the depth of the spiritual quality of our thinking, of our being, of our nature. So this is the problem. We have two opposing viewpoints where religion seems to maintain itself through fear, and progressives maintain their position through intellect, just intellect. So they, in both camps, they lack the majesty of the divine. They lack the brilliance and the sense of oneness, the sense of foreverness. I mean, this all in one. I mean, it's a beautiful concept that we can enjoy. We certainly can actually experience something more than just memorizing or intellectualizing. And that's what I think people of faith can intellectualize their faith so much that it becomes a problem, and progressives can intellectualize their science, their, and both have a limited effect. You cannot have both. You have to have both. You have to have more than just the intellectual. I mean, so when people are in their religious groups and they're going through their Bible study efforts, they are making the case that yes, we have proof in the Bible. See, all of that is just intellectualizing. You want to experience the Bible, that's a beautiful thing, but you should do it by yourself and not worry about what the symbols mean and what they don't. It's like painting, or it's like writing. You don't study the Bible to memorize it or to just intellectualize it. You experience it. You read the Bible and you see what happened. You see what images come into your mind. You see how it makes you feel. You don't look to it for answers specifically. The answers will come, but they're not going to come so, oh, look at it's right there. Geez, it's right there in chapter, verse 4, 7, It's not like that. It's not like you're taking a math test and you go to the back of the book and you find the answers. That's not what happened. Your Bible reading should be experience. Whatever religious text you are associated with. Don't read it, experience it. Don't worry about so much of the words and what they say. Some of them don't make any sense at all. And I don't understand why people feel they need to be literal about the Bible. You just experience what you can if you want. Because, the Bible does talk about things that most books don't talk about. But to intellectualize, there's, oh my God, I don't know. There's just so much thought put into it, especially the prophecies. They try to predict things, they just go over the top, trying to figure out, the whole end of days thing. And Revelation is impossible to read. You cannot read that thing. It makes no sense at all. If you try to take it literally, forget it. But if you read it and you just kind of see what you experience while you read it, okay, that's going to be a different thing. I would definitely suggest you not read or study the Bible. Experience it, or whatever your sacred text that you read. The Torah, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita. Whatever it is that's available to you to help you think about these things that go beyond our normal nature, then by all means you should. But don't read it. Don't put it in your brain. Make it experience. Be a co-creator in the sense that whatever's happening, you just let the experience, just like you're washing the blood of the Lamb over you to keep the fear away and keep our baser nature in proper perspective, and you can forgive yourself about that quality, but you're just experiencing the moment to help you maintain that connection you have internally and externally. You want that same kind of thing to happen in your biblical teaching or your reading of your sacred text, whatever it is. Don't intellectualize it. Please do not memorize chapter and verse. And do not try to come up with some kind of theory. Because you can say, well, I'm the Messiah. It's right here. It's proof. And then you start to split. That's what people have done all the time. All of these religious zealots that end up doing all sorts of bizarre things because they have absolutely convinced themselves, because they intellectualize their studying of their sacred text. That's the same thing that terrorists do. They just read there and then they just study it so they can justify and rationalize their thinking. They're thinking too much. And it leads to very dangerous thinking. So I am asking you not to read your Bible or your sacred text, whatever it is, and yet what you should be doing is experiencing it. Do it in the privacy, in the solo-ness of it. That's where your creative place is. We're in that quiet place. When I'm writing, it's just me and the computer, and just sort of the little whirling sounds that the computer makes, and the tapping of the keys, and allowing the words to just sort of flow out of you. There's no intellectual process going on here. It's just really this opening of my need to express with the external field around me, and we end up creating this tangible thing in the end, knowing that that's actually not the spiritual part, the painting itself. The process of writing, or the process of painting is the spiritual journey. That's the journey that you're on to create this